Hi, everyone, and welcome to the CuteMonster Show. I'm your host, Vincent Daly. In today's episode, I'll be speaking with hip-hop music and spoken word artist Beleaf. Here's a track from his latest album titled In Fatherhood.
Look what you did to me. This is some mystery. Don't worry about hard times, cause it all become history. Now look at all this time we got. And I know it won't last forever, but as long as we together, I ain't never gonna leave you ever. I'm probably gonna let you down, but I'll always lift you up. That means I'm praying for you, boy. Yeah, I'm praying for you, shawty. He got plans for you. I'm example of a man for you. That's a lot of weight. Oh, that's a lot of weight. Oh, that's a lot of weight.
Hi, Beleaf, and welcome to the CuteMonster Show. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, brother. How are you?
I am fantastic. I wanted to talk to you about your new album titled In Fatherhood. It has the feel of a personal journey. There's a track on it called You're Okay that just resonates on so many levels. To me personally, as a dad, it captured that transformation a man experiences when making the shift from independent self to fatherhood. I mean, there's pain, there's love, self-discovery, and hope all wrapped into one. And I was hoping you could elaborate about this track in particular, specifically the process of its creation and what it personally meant to you.
Well, the creation of the track actually happened during a day that I actually recorded on my blog episode, my blog series, Beleaf Fatherhood, where it was just a rough day. You know, the kids just kept losing. There was a big poop explosion, from my youngest at the time, and then the other one peed all over the floor, and then he peed again. You know what I'm saying? And it was just like that thing, and you can tell that they were like kind of scared to come to me, especially the oldest. He was like, man, like embarrassed and crying, like, man, I failed, and it just was one of those things where it was kind of like, man, like, I want you to know, like, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how bad you mess up, I'm still here and we're okay with each other, And so you're okay with me is just one of those things where you hear a lot of people say, and I always say it, not really intentionally, but just saying like, hey, man, you're okay, buddy, if you fall and hurt yourself, or you're okay. Encourage yourself in a way. So, yeah, that's kind of the conception of it. But it's just about the weight of fatherhood. I don't think a lot of people talk about the weight. And it's just like so much pressure for me to raise men and be the example of a man for a daughter. You know what I'm saying? Or be an example of a man for a man. It's just so much weight and pressure. And I don't really realize I don't know if men realize how great this thing is,
Did you have any expectations, or did you talk to anybody prior to becoming a dad to just get a kind of a feel of what you might expect?
Well, I mean, you hear people talk about it all the time, and they talk about it with like this, it's like a catastrophe beauty thing. Oh man, it's the hardest thing, but the greatest thing. But it's so hard, but it's great. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, well, I'm not really looking forward to that.
You don't know whether to run or embrace it.
Yeah, and so what happens is when you find out that, you're about to have a child, everybody's opinions come. It's going to change you, it's going to change you. And you hear it, but you kind of block it out because you're so nervous and anxious. And then when it happens, it does change you, So people always try to give advice, but I don't think I was really hearing anything at the time. I just was kind of like just stuck,
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree. I mean, ultimately, your experience is your own. So you kind of have to find your own way.
Exactly. I think that's the part of the thing is like everyone's experience is going to be different and everyone's challenge. Like people have different kids. There's no, right or wrong way. Of course there's like horrible things that you could do to your kids, but I mean, there's nobody who's like an expert on your child but you know.
I agree. There's no such thing as one size fits all.
Exactly.
So I wanted to know a little bit about your artistic influences growing up. Was it all about music? Was it something else?
I really like movies. I was just kind of a kid who just liked to sit and watch and observe. I fell in love with hip hop at like 13. I was walking on my way to school. I missed the bus that day, and I was walking, and I had my Walkman. I had a tape cassettes.
Yes.
And I was walking, and on the ground, I'm looking down because the journey was so long, and I'm looking down, and I saw this tape, and it said "Proceed" on it, and I just knew it was going to be garbage, but I was like, oh man, this is cool. I'm going to pick it up. The cover looked cool. So I put it in my Walkman and I just bumped it. And so that was actually the Roots, who now is like, the cover, the house band for Jimmy Fallon, and it was a song called "I Shall Proceed." And at the beginning of the song, I was, at the time I was struggling with suicide, and so at the beginning of the song, the first line was, "Just think, what if you could just blink yourself away?" And it just like really hit me, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so I got to school, and in between classes and all day I was listening to this song, and it just became like the soundtrack for like my movement towards hip hop. I got really into comedy. I really loved Dave Chappelle. He was like the comedian that I liked to watch growing up in high school. And then, kind of one of those things where I just really loved movies. I really like to watch cartoons, and so all type of art was interesting to me.
Were you more of a lone person in terms of your development, or did you work in a group? I mean, how did that form? How did you form to be Beleaf?
Okay, well, it actually occurred way later. I was always just a fan, and I was just a bystander kind of in the stands watching. And so it didn't actually happen until I started going to church at 19 after I moved out, 20. And I moved out to California, and I met this guy named Ruslan, and he was just kind of like a local rapper, and he was a white dude, you know what I'm saying? He was like, "Hey, man, can you rap?" And I was like, "Nah." He's like, "Well, look, I need a DJ. You should join my band." And I was like, "Man, I don't really want to, be in a band, you know what I'm saying, or rap, so no thank you." And he just was very consistent, and he gave me his turntables, and I got really good at it really fast. And so I started out as a DJ, and then I kind of edged into poetry and started going to open mics and stuff like that. And then eventually, I realized that I had so much to say throughout like the depression and suicide and all the thoughts that I was having in my head. I wanted to be more of a storyteller, and so I started spitting. So technically, Beleaf as an entity, the artist, is a storyteller because I just use different platforms to tell stories. I think, me being from Baltimore, Maryland, you know what I mean, where it's kind of like a rough place to grow up, and then coming to California, it gave me a super great advantage because there was a hustle that I got from Baltimore that no one else could teach me. It's like, you meet people from New York, and their pace is so fast. They walk fast. They don't hold the door, like they just go, and I had that hustle, meets this real West Coast swingy, stylistic, slick, like laid back, style. And, when you merge those two pieces together, I look different. I sounded different from all the other people I was hanging around. And so I think it gave people a different advantage or, view of me, cause they're like, "Oh, he's West Coast, but he's always in the pocket in the beat." You know what I'm saying? And so, it just came from like watching everybody else and just merging my own styles. I actually learned that from sales. I worked at Men's Warehouse and, I was selling suits, and, I started as like a guy who was like selling shirts and ties into like a suit salesman. And so what they did was they told me, take all these different styles from all these other salesmen and just make your own. And so that's what I did. I took all my favorite rappers, Black Thought, some of the members of Wu-Tang, Method Man, ODB, and like all these different characters that I saw, and I just merged my own style.
Did you have a sort of epiphany, like a moment of clarity where you said, "Okay, this is my style, I've arrived," it's sort of like when you first became Spider-Man or something, that origin story where you had that aha moment where it was so crystal clear what you needed to do and where you were going?
No, well, not really. I knew that I was always like, I know I'm better than what I'm doing. I just don't know how to articulate it, And so for a while I was always, I started out as a DJ. So that means I was a DJ who rapped, so I could get like 2 or 3 verses on an album. And so what happened was I got into this style of always featuring, so I was always like featuring Beleaf, or like this, I only got 1 verse on the record. So I would always have an opportunity to try out different styles, whatever, like without having to commit to anything for a whole album, And so it gave me the ability to just like really, hone a lot of different, stuff, in my repertoire, you know what I'm saying? So like I had mad styles that I would try out on these verses. And then, once it was time to drop my own record, I kind of knew that the style I wanted to go was more like a Detroit Slum Village type of style, but I still don't think I've arrived, even though, I said it's my last record. Like, I still think it's way more to do, much more to do with MCing. I think we just kind of cracked it open with the new guys, the mumble rappers as they call them, because everybody unlocks a code. And so when you have someone like Kendrick Lamar or really big artists who are doing really well, try something different, that's a wave everybody's going to follow. So as people start experimenting with different languages and doing like different styles of mumble rap, I think it's so much for us to conquer. And so I still don't think I'm done developing as an artist.
Right. So in a way, you as an artist, it seems like you'll always be a work in progress.
Exactly. Because we are publishers, we're not finishers. No song is ever really complete. There's always something else you can add to it.
Well, let's fast forward a bit and incorporate fatherhood. How does art and music inform you in how you raise your kids?
I don't. It doesn't. Well, here's one way. I don't think I was ever built to be like a student in an academic traditional sense. And so as I look at my kids and I look at their strengths and weaknesses at the age of 4 and 2 and 3 and an infant, I look at them and I'm saying, okay, what are you telling me about yourself? I wish someone would have noticed my interest in arts and movies earlier. I wish someone would have kind of gave me the tools that could have made me excel earlier. But everyone kind of puts a traditional. Everyone looks at everyone traditionally. So they say, okay, you're going to go to the 4-year, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and that's what I was kind of forced to do when I realized, like, I hate school so much, I'm going to avoid it at all costs. And I think that's kind of how it influences me to be like, man, like this kid can be whatever, and I don't want to stunt his growth. So I'm going to allow him to be as creative as possible and as different as possible because he's weird. You know what I'm saying? Like both my kids are weird, and so we got to celebrate the weirdos. That's how art has influenced me as a parent, but more so music my music now comes from a place of being a father,
Weirdness changes the paradigm. It changes the conversation. So it's a good thing.
Definitely.
So being a father, being a stay-at-home dad requires patience, a sense of humor, dedication, you name it. What advice would you give to new dads just starting this journey?
For new dads, I would just say enjoy the process. Enjoy every single moment because, like everyone else says, you'll blink and it'll be over. And so it's like one of those things where it's like if you blink, you'll miss it. And so I would just encourage every father and every new father to enjoy when they can't hold their head up because they get to lean on your shoulder. To enjoy when they can't crawl because that means they can't get away from you, and soon you're going to just want to cuddle and you can't cuddle because they're going to want to climb on something. And so I'm realizing now how important the little things are. I had a conversation with a really good friend of mine. His daughter just turned 18. She's about to leave for college. And he's telling me, he's like, man, like you just don't, I'm feeling the weight of the distance in my schedule. And I wish I had more time. And It's crazy, So I would say just enjoy the small things, the moments now.
So how about yourself for the future? I mean, where do you see yourself as both an artist and a father a few years from now, 5 years from now? I mean, do you have a sense of where you're going, or are you just kind of seeing how things play out day by day?
I want to be the inspiration to the influencers. I want to be the influencers. I feel like I've always been in a kind of big brother role, and so I like to have my thumb in the industry as a spokesperson and someone who can speak about different artists, who's coming up and stuff like that. I want to be like that guy as far as music is concerned. And then as fatherhood and media, YouTube, I want to be the best, I want to be the best family vlogger to exist. I want to be able to speak to brands and tell them a perspective. And I want to like really shed some light on Black fatherhood specifically, because I feel like that's one of the things that is kind of like misrepresented most in culture is that, Black dads aren't around, And so right now, I believe that it's prime time for me. I feel like I'm just getting started. I've just kind of found my sweet spot and I can't work fast enough. I want to, my wife currently still has a job. I want to get her in a position where she doesn't have to work. And so that I can just, be a creative and put other people on, And so I'm really excited for the future. 5 years from now, all I know is I want to hit 100,000 subscribers this year. I have 24K currently. So it's a long, we're 6 months in, and it's a long way. But I'm ready for the challenge. Everything excites me right now.
Do you have any projects in the works going on now or in the immediate future you'd like to mention to our audience?
Yeah, I just put out a video, and it's called Black Father Exposed, and it's just about elevating, Black fathers on Father's Day. And so a lot of people on Father's Day will say, oh, man, my dad wasn't around, so here's a picture of my mom. You know what I'm saying? But you do know fathers that are around, even if they're not your own fathers, and people who have been kind of mentors to us. And so just I don't want fathers to look like Homer Simpson and Peter Griffin. You know what I'm saying? I don't want us to be fumbling, kind of trying to figure it out and just always messing up. I want us to be leaders. I want us to be men of intent and intention and leaders and pillars in the community. And so that's really what I'm trying to elevate. Beleaf in Fatherhood on YouTube is a very fast-growing, authentic family vlog. And it's episodic, and it's really good. I think it's funny. I think it's real. It probably needs to be censored in some way because of all the poop and throw up, but I don't really care. But it's just honest. And so, yeah, if you guys want to check that out, and also the In Fatherhood album, there's no way that I'm going to be done making music, but I am not putting out any more albums. So this is the last project that you can get as a whole. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
I wanted to thank you today, Beleaf, for joining me on the CuteMonster Show. It was really a pleasure and an honor to have you on, and I hope you'll join me again in the future.
I would love to. Thank you so much, Vincent.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. Until next time, I'm Vincent Daly, and this is the CuteMonster Show, signing off.